So you've held or about to hold your 100th town hall across every corner of the state. I guess what surprised you the most about what Iowans are talking about?
Um, hmm. Certainly a reoccurring theme is just that people are very fed up. They're sick of the direction of things in Iowa, and they're looking around and they understand they can feel that our economy is not doing well. Most folks know that we're number one in cancer growth. I guess that doesn't surprise me. And your question at the end of the day is what surprises me? I guess I've actually been pretty surprised at how many people are coming out that aren't members of my political party. Independents and Republicans, oftentimes it's 40% of the room. Um, and we're getting good turnout and we're getting questions from people who are interested in hearing from somebody that's doing something different, I think.
Yeah. Um, so you've talked about bringing people together. I guess what have you learned about how Democrats can win back independents and Republicans, particularly in rural Iowa?
I think a big piece of it is focusing on actually addressing the issues that are impacting people's lives. The job of government, you can't make utopia, you can't make everybody's lives perfect, but take a problem that annoys somebody every single day and make it something they only have to think about once a month, and you have made their life better. I think people want that. They want a government that's focused on actually addressing issues that we're facing and not just a bunch of people having a food fight in two private clubs beating up on each other.
Yeah. When you look back at all the stops that you've done, is there a particular story or person kind of that stuck with you and shaped maybe how you see this race or maybe crystallized for you why you're running for governor?
This was before the campaign started, actually. Meeting Nancy in Grimes, a woman named Nancy in Grimes. She has a 9-year-old son. I've got a 9-year-old son. Her 9-year-old son has seizures, and she came out to this event and asked about whether or not why there wasn't anyone running the Medicaid program in the state of Iowa. It was an unfilled position because her son had had a really hard time getting the health care that he needed. And she had driven all the way to Franklin County and back again because Chuck Grassley is one of the only people in statewide or federal office in Iowa that'll actually do public town halls. And so she drove up all the way up there because she couldn't get answers from people anywhere in the Des Moines area and literally was willing to drive halfway across the state of Iowa and back again to try to have a conversation with anyone in a position of power about the impact of this program and its lack of leadership on her son. That I went home that night and cried, and I've stayed in touch with Nancy. No one in Iowa wants that. People in Iowa want a family with a 9-year-old who has health issues to get the health they need, but also to be able to have access to the leaders that are supposed to be serving us so that they can actually have a conversation with them about what's going on with them. And that's one of the things that really drives me in terms of who we're out here for, but also the way to do this that's better. Because the way to do it is to have people who can come out and ask me questions, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. There was a woman last night in Osage who was upset with me. She was right there. She got to ask me questions, and we had a conversation about it, and about an issue that really, at the end of the day, isn't something that I could have had any impact on yet. But I was there, and she was interested in talking to me because I was there. More elected officials need to be doing this stuff.
Like, what was she upset about? What was the issue?
She's frustrated with water quality in the state of Iowa, which of course is something that, as state auditor, I haven't been able to have any impact on. And she said, you've had 5 months to put together a plan. Why don't you have one yet? And I answered her question. We had a good conversation, and I think we had some good exchanges throughout the evening. But at the end of the day, she's upset about a situation that has been decades in the making. And she doesn't have accessibility to other people who are actually currently responsible for it because no one's willing to do stuff like this out there and meet up with any Iowan that wants to walk into the room.
Yeah. So how has Nancy's story, I guess, impacted, I guess, your agenda or platform, and how do you plan on, I guess, addressing that issue?
Nancy's story certainly is one of the things that just reinforces to me how poorly privatized Medicaid is working in the state of Iowa. So we can put numbers on that. I mean, we found in an audit a 500% increase in illegal denials of care. We found large numbers of healthcare providers, hospitals and otherwise, that have had to take out lines of credit because the MCOs refuse to pay. That has caused increasing costs for everyone. But it's actually having a conversation with someone like Nancy and the struggles that she's having to help her son get the health care that he needs that helps reinforce that those numbers aren't just numbers. They're people in the state of Iowa, they're our neighbors, and we should want to make sure that they're doing the best they can, both because that's a good way to treat people, but also because when Nancy and her family are doing the best they can, they're contributing more to this state for the rest of us too.
Yeah. You've talked about this town hall is about listening to Iowans. Um, is there a particular example you can cite of like something you've heard that has impacted your campaign, either your messaging or something that you've decided to incorporate into your platform?
If I'm standing here right now, I don't know that anything comes to mind, but we've had multiple situations where people have a question about an issue that we will end up following up with them on because it's not an area that is either getting much public attention or it's not an area that I don't have expertise in. And so when we have those opportunities, we usually take them for follow-up because someone's taking the time to come and tell us that they care about this issue. We want to then take the time to read up on that. A good example of that would be just at the last stop. We had a law enforcement official who asked about the disparity in pensions for local law enforcement versus state troopers, and was asking about the speed and the decisions that are made in terms of road construction in rural areas versus in the Des Moines area. He raised some good questions. What I told him was, maybe there's a good answer for that disparity. I'd like to know what people on the other side of it have to say about it. I would hope that we would be treating people fairly.
Yeah. So now that you're wrapping up this listening tour, what's next for this campaign? What's the next phase?
One thing at a time. So we're going to finish this thing tonight. I've got 3 more to go. That's 100 town halls public the year before the election with everyone invited to be there. I don't think there's been any campaign for governor in Iowa history that has done that. So the very next thing is to take a breath.
Yeah. And you'll be wrapping this up in your hometown of Decorah. I guess what's the significance of that for you, hitting this milestone? And how has, I guess, your upbringing in that community impacted your campaign?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to be home tonight. I'm sure I'll see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. It's probably going to be hard to stop myself from saying hi to everyone in the middle of my talk as I look over and see, another teacher that I had in school or something like that. I started my campaign in 2018, the first time I ran for state auditor with an event in Decorah. And I remember one of the first things I said is that, we need to do a better job of loving our neighbors. I feel like that's more true now than it was then. And it's going to be fun to go home and share the message of this campaign that is really rooted in that.